Devastating news from Carrick-On-Shannon yesterday as we learned of a cruiser boat fire which led to the tragic death of one woman. That woman has now been named as Garda Detective Deirdre Finn. I'm joined by Brendan O'Connor of the Garda Representative Association, and shortly we'll be joined by Michael O'Toole, the crime correspondent of the Irish Daily Star. But first of all, Brendan, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
You knew Deirdre well?
Yes, Deirdre was a very active member of the Garda Representative Association. She had been a divisional and a district rep, and she was part of our Standing Orders Committee, who were very much involved in the organising of our annual delegate conference. So very well known to members up and down the country, and she made a big impression on anyone she met. And the messages coming in of offering condolences yesterday from inside and outside the organisation, many lives touched by Deirdre, and I believe she applied that same dedication that she did to representing her and advocating for her colleagues, to advocating for the victims of crime, and when she investigated crimes as a detective, and before that as a uniform member in around the DMR East.
Yeah. And she was based in Dun Laoghaire, is that so?
That's right. She's been a detective in Dun Laoghaire for the last few years. She started out her career as a uniform guard in Bray, and so she also spent some time in Shankill, and she also was on secondment to the Organised Crime Bureau for a period of time too. So very experienced, very professional police person, but I suppose her character shone through in everything she did and every aspect of her life.
She was scheduled to retire relatively soon, is that so?
That's correct, yes. Dee, as we call her, she was ready for retirement in the not too distant future, and I think she had a great passion for her boat and her love of the Shannon waterway, so I think that was going to be a big part of her life. So that was something that she had always aspired to do, and she had achieved in recent years. So it's all the more poignant that she would lose her life in the circumstances that she did.
So this was part of her retirement plan, that she would spend a lot of time boating on the Shannon, which is it's a wonderful thing to be able to do, but unfortunately it ended in tragedy.
That's true, yeah. I mean, it's always good to see someone realising their dreams, and for Dee, this was a big part of her dream, and unfortunately, we find ourselves dealing with this. So just, as you said in your introduction, utter devastation across the organisation, colleagues of every rank and every corner of the country in UG, and it was, I suppose, difficult for members who attended the scene yesterday because she's just so well known. So many of the members who were there yesterday would have known Dee personally, so there's just a numbness in the air.
Now, the investigation into what happened, I mean, I know there's a Garda investigation ongoing, and therefore you might be limited in what you can say, but just the narrative of how events unfolded.
Well, as you say, there's an investigation. Don't want to preempt that, but I understand all the indications are is that what we're dealing here is just a very unfortunate and tragic accident. So I think we're looking at technical issues, but as I say, we don't want to preempt any investigation.
No, but it happened in, the very early hours of the morning?
Not very early. I think around 8 a.m. yesterday morning, the alarm was raised by people on adjoining boats that witnessed smoke or fire, and that's what raised the alarm and alerted the emergency services, and events started to unfold at that stage. So my understanding is sometime early yesterday morning, but not the early hours.
Okay. But it is thought that maybe Deirdre was asleep at the time, which would not be unusual, I suppose, when you're on your holidays.
No, that would be the suggestion or the indications that it was just an ordinary. She attended the regatta, sailed up from where her boat is normally kept in County Leitrim up to Carrick-On-Shannon, participated in festivities in Carrick-Shannon. She was very much part of that community, as she was the Garda community, and I think just an ordinary night of celebration and fun and mixing, which is what Deirdre was all about. I mean, she was a great socialite, she was great company, and unfortunately, as we say, the tragic events then unfolded yesterday morning. Yeah.
Now, the procedure which will follow, I presume there will be a post-mortem.
Yes, there'll be full forensic examinations of the fire scene and a post-mortem to establish the cause of death. So that's standard procedure in any unexplained death.
You mentioned that she was a very experienced detective Garda. She was involved in, some operations that the public might have become aware of in her career.
Yes, well, as I said, she was in the DMR East there, which covers Dun Laoghaire and the eastern seaboard part of the city, so very much involved in a wide portfolio of crime on the more serious side of things. So I think one of the more profile cases she had in recent times there. We saw she can secure a conviction against a criminal who actually was fleeing the scene of an armed robbery and led to the death of a person. So, but the dedication, that's what's been the feedback I'm getting, is that she was applied herself to all aspects of her work with such dedication and always put the victims of crime at the heart of her investigation. Very person-oriented and person-focused attitude in life that she displayed.
Yeah, I know that the investigation that you're referring to was one where a woman tragically died. Her name was Jacqueline McGovern, and she was one of two women struck by a car which was carrying three people. And they were raiding a store near me, I know it well, on Barnhill Road when that happened. And she was the part of the investigation that led to the conviction.
Yes, that's right. So big loss to the organisation and a big loss to the community too. That, as you say, your local community was well served by having a detective of such calibre investigating serious crime that occurred in the community. So just sadness all round at the loss of Dee.
Well, we extend our condolences to all her colleagues in Dun Laoghaire and indeed all her friends and her extended family on her untimely death. Brendan, thank you very much for joining us on the line. Brendan O'Connor of the Garda Representative Association. Mick O'Toole, who is crime and defence correspondent for the Irish Daily Star, is on the line. Michael, good morning.
Morning, Pat.
We've just got an outline of what occurred from Brendan. Can you fill us in on the timeline of what occurred?
Yeah, Detective Dee, as everybody knew, had recently bought a boat, and I think it was a colleague was telling me that and rugby were the two great passions of her life. So over the bank holiday weekend, she and two female friends were in Carrick-On-Shannon in County Leitrim on her boat. Now, I got the call. We were told about it by 10 o'clock yesterday. I think the fire happened overnight. Gardaí and other emergency services rushed to the scene, but unfortunately the blaze on the boat, which was very, very badly damaged, claimed the life of Dee. So there will be two investigations into this. Obviously, Gardaí are investigating this, but there's the Marine Casualty Bureau investigation. They'll also be carrying out an investigation. Indications, and the very strong indications, are at this stage that this was just a terrible accident and there's nothing suspicious to it. But I just heard the tail end of Brendan there. Guards are devastated by Dee's death. A lot of people, the thing about the guards is every guard easily knows 1,000 other Gardaí. And I think Dee would know more people than that, because as Brendan would, I miss Brendan, but I'm sure he was saying that Dee was very active in the GRA. That's where I knew her from. And, she was a very, very popular guard.
Yeah, I mean, he said that she was involved in organising their delegate conferences and therefore would have been known even to probably a wider circle than would be typical. And as you said there, one guard might know 1,000 other Gardaí. Yeah. So it's a family, a large family, but a family nonetheless. In terms of a fire on a boat, Mick, I'm not a boating enthusiast, even though I live close to the water. All sorts of things can cause fires. Sometimes there are heaters on board that are fueled by liquid fuel. It could be paraffin or whatever. Other times it might be electrically driven, a heater. There are cookers on board. Sometimes there are gas cylinders. So multiple possibilities for the cause of a fire.
Yes, and obviously, as I said, there will be at least two investigations into this. Look, I'll be honest, I don't know what they're looking at this stage, but it stands to reason that something caused the fire, obviously. I'm not really aware of that many fires on boats. I have to be honest, Pat, I'm struggling to remember the last time that I covered or heard of a fire on a boat, so it must be very rare, but obviously they will be looking, as you say, at various things.
It always seems contradictory that a fire could be so devastating when the object on fire is surrounded by water. But you hear from time to time about trawlers going on fire, and it's something that all mariners hate, the idea of fire on board. And as I say, it seems contradictory. With all that water available, that fire should be seen as the hazard it is. But that's the reality, and a boat can go up very quickly, leaving maybe little recourse to escape.
Yes, and look, we again, subject to investigation, but a lot of fatalities in fires, as you would know, Pat, are caused by the smoke, not necessarily the blaze. So look, it's all under investigation, but I would be pretty satisfied that there's nothing suspicious about it anyway.
Michael O'Toole, crime and defence correspondent for the Irish Daily Star. Thank you very much for joining us.